It would be a lot easier following Cindy Robinson if she hadn't used the word articulate in reference to me. Wow. Thank you, Cynthia. It's a beautiful job. And I want to thank you for squandering some of your enormous credibility in saying all those nice things about me. We have a hugely distinguished guest tonight, and I was told that because he had come from a long way that I should keep this to 30 or 40 minutes. They might have said 3 or 4 minutes. I'm not sure, so I will compromise. Anyone who probably receives an award like this feels a little bit guilty, a little bit unworthy, especially in the presence of other judges, and especially knowing the other judges, one readily comes to mind all the other judges who would be equally or more deserving of such an award, so I'm very complimented. The theme about tonight's little message of thanks to you is how lucky I feel I have been throughout my life. As Cindy mentioned, I grew up pretty poor, I think, but what didn't hurt about it was you didn't know. We were all relatively poor. So it was a childhood of play, pretty much. My luck continued when I was in high school. The very first game, I was a catcher. I caught a no-hitter. Now, I have guests here tonight who stretch back. My non-professional life has friendships so old that they are 50 years old now. And that baseball game involves 2 of those friends. They seem to be baseball related. The shortstop of that team is here, Brian Butterly and his wife, Gail. They go back to 9th grade. Brian and I go back to 8th grade. Now, because so many of you do work that involves surgeons and stuff, I should point out to you that Brian has liked to point out through the years in pride of his son, Tim, that his son, Tim, is a surgeon. So I asked Brian if he would tell us what kind of surgeon Tim is. You might be curious. Brian.
I wasn't prepared for this, but my son is a very renowned tree surgeon.
Now, this might give you an idea why I will be saying in a moment how much I love the company and friendship of trial lawyers, because I have some pretty trying non-lawyer friends here. Brian once encountered, this is about 4 or 5 years ago, a very snooty, highly academically successful classmate who inquired as to what his career was. And about a month before that, Brian had published in Sports Illustrated some rant or diatribe about some esoteric sports piece. So to put down what he thought was the condescending question from the snooty one, he told her that he wrote for Sports Illustrated. So it's very difficult to have Brian as a friend. Now, my other friend is here. I probably met him within months of meeting Brian, and we are friends to this day. Rick and I, and his wife Bernadette, Richard Lamont, we cannot talk politics. Now, this is a strain, too, making the company of trial lawyers a little easy because we can talk about anything, we trial lawyers. Rick believes in global warming, but he believes it all comes from Al Gore's house. So it's difficult. I've been so lucky I once had a job where I could ski all day long. And in the Army, as an infantry officer, I was told that if I went to Korea, I'd be assigned to the DMZ. I applied for Korea. And that I wouldn't get to spend any money, and that I'd therefore have some savings for law school. I wind up getting assigned to Seoul, a bona fide millionaire for a roommate whose family owned International Shoe, which you will remember as a jurisdictional famed sort of family. Well, I was with the owner. And I didn't save any money. And I wound up as director of 19 officers' clubs in Seoul, Korea. The perfect Army job for a poli-sci history major. I think that Army career, as Cynthia mentioned, helped me get into law school. That luck continued when I had 23 wonderful years with the only law firm I sought to go to. I had a nice little vantage point at the Connecticut Supreme Court with a clerkship that gave you a little bit of a view of who was doing what. And at the time, the Koskoff law firm was involved in the Black Panther difficulties in New Haven, was trying to finish up Johnny Carson's first divorce, and was involved with, get this, the only murder trial pending in Connecticut. It was in Stamford. Imagine a time when we had one murder case pending in the state. I had a career that so enthralled and spoiled me, and I had it in an office where, in 23 years, I never witnessed a single argument. I think that's probably not absolutely unique, but I bet it's pretty rare. In my career, the first time I was ever in federal court, F. Lee Bailey was the client. Fortunately, he wasn't there. Fortunately, there were other co-defendants who were making similar arguments, but it was still a pretty daunting situation. Early on in my career, in the mid-'70s, I represented a former Watertown High School football star who was accused of killing his wife. And we won that case. Richard Fuchs, the late Richard Fuchs, who passed away at 50, a dear friend, we won that case. And he was so innocent that the jury foreman was best man at his wedding. And this was a young man who was accused of killing his wife. Another murder case involved a 50-year-old spinster who said in self-defense she shot a man who came to her door. That case was saved, by the way, by Cyril Wecht, the famed forensic pathologist, who was able to help me convince the jury that she did not shoot the man as he retreated, but as he advanced. And that was indicated by the amount of blood that pooled in the proper body cavity, the first shot producing more blood than the second. And in that case, I made the friendship, which has lasted to this day, of a young man looking for work. He'd been a licensed investigator and was on his way to becoming a law school, Joseph Marioni, who is with you now as your president for this year. We got that acquittal before